Channel project's important because this is one of the hottest spots. It's a toxic hotspot, so it means one of the more polluted areas in all of California. The Rhine Channel was one of the major industrial areas of Newport Beach in the past. So it has a long history of metal plating facility, boat yards, other industrial activity, and a lot of the runoff, and then also just from the activities back, the practices back in those times. You know, people hosed things into the storm drains. They did not have the pollution controls that we have now. Orange County Coastkeeper has been involved in the Rhine Channel project for our entire existence since 1999. This was actually one of the first things that we were involved in. It's because it's one of the most important pollution issues in Orange County. What we developed in our 2006 study were 3 alternatives for the cleanup of the Rhine Channel. So the primary issue with the Rhine Channel is the sediment. So we need to remove the sediment to clean up the water. So what we have behind us is a dredge. What this dredge does is it has a giant bucket on it, what they call it, and the bucket is lowered over the dredge, dropped into the water, scoops up some sediment, and then drops that into another barge which holds the sediment. And the first alternative that we have, and the least expensive, which we're lucky to be able to do, is to take that sediment in the barge over to the Port of Long Beach, where they're doing a fill project. So they're actually creating some new land at the Port of Long Beach. So they're taking the sediment over there, dropping it in this fill project, where it, even though the sediment's contaminated, it will be sealed up by clean dirt, so it will go in the middle of the fill project. So that is the least expensive option. The other alternatives we had were far more expensive. So the next one was to actually create what's called a confined aquatic disposal site. What that would have done, we would have had to go out and dig a giant hole in the middle of Newport Harbor here somewhere. And then we would, once again, scoop the sediment off of the bottom of the Rhine Channel, put that into a barge, and then take that over to that hole and drop it in. And then after we cleaned up all the sediment here in the Rhine Channel, cover that hole up. It's still isolated, but it's under the water. So it's a less desirable alternative. The third alternative, and the most expensive alternative, was to go ahead and put this sediment in a barge it down to San Diego, and then load it onto trucks and take it to a landfill down in San Diego that was willing to accept it. Because none of the Orange County landfills were willing to accept the sediment from the Rhine Channel, primarily because of the water content in it. But this landfill in San Diego is designed to accept that type of thing. That was going to be quite a bit more expensive. To give you some ideas of the estimates on the cost estimate for what we're doing right now from the study was $7 million. For the confined aquatic disposal option, the second option was going to be $12 million. And then for the final option, barging it down to San Diego and trucking it to a landfill, was going to be $20 million.
Everybody knew that this was a problem out here. For 20 years, people have known that the sediments here were contaminated, and really nobody had the money or the time to come up with a solution. So I would say that in 2005, when Orange County Coastkeeper got the initial water quality grant money from the state to actually figure out what the problem was and where the problem was and how to solve the problem, you know, nothing really was occurring. So the local residents and the businesses here, most of these people have been here their whole lives, and they've all known that this area was contaminated, so they're all really happy to see it. The reason that this is going to the Port of Long Beach versus the Port of LA or San Diego or San Francisco is really about opportunity. The Port of Long Beach just happened to have a very large fill site that they're embarking on right now. It's called the Middle Harbor Fill Site. It's a multi-billion-dollar development project to fill in a bunch of waterways and create new backland space for their terminal. And they need about 5 million cubic yards of sediment. The amount of material coming out of the Rhine Channel is about 100,000 cubic yards, just to put it in perspective. This is a very small percentage of the material that will create this fill site. They'll actually be bringing in material from Lower Newport Bay as well, a couple 100,000 yards there. Marina del Rey, probably about 500,000 yards from Marina del Rey, as well as some of their own internal projects to build the fill site.
I would say from the first day, because when we announced the creation and had a press conference announcing the creation of Orange County Coastkeeper, we held it in the parking lot of the Cannery Restaurant behind us. And the purpose was to identify the problems here in Orange County, and particularly in Newport Harbor with this little channel. We had divers in the water at the time, and they were pulling up trash and debris just on things that were basically on the top of the bottom layer of sediment. The interesting thing is, everybody's always said this is all legacy pollutants from back when this was a very industrial channel, and yet we found large, relatively new Marbalite light posts with circuit boxes on them that had barcodes, and we'd only at the time had barcodes for like 12 or 14 years. And so there's a lot of debris in here, and if this project hadn't been done, eventually you couldn't get boats in here. And so it's been important for Orange County Coastkeeper from day one.
We have the dredging operation over here to my left, and you'll see the yellow excavator, which is actually digging the Rhine Channel, digging the sediment out, and it's placing it in this disposal scow right here called the Clarence D. What's happening over here over my right shoulder is the pile driving barge, and what its job is, it has a crane that is a 210-foot crane. And what it's doing is it's pulling out the piles. And the piles are these concrete piles that you see at the end of the fingers right here in front of us. And it's pulling out the old piles and replacing them with a brand new pile. The brand new pile is longer and stronger than the original pile. The contractor has until December 31st, 2011 to be completely done. Right now, we're probably looking at about the 1st of December, so probably about 30 days early. It would be a good guess at this point. But I guess the answer to the question is it'll be done in the next couple months. The community has been very supportive of this project, and I'm really excited. One of the big things that that I was worried about was, like for instance, every single boat had to be out of their respective marina when we got to dredging in that area. You can see that this marina right here is empty. There are no boats here. And I'm really excited with how the community came together, and with some coordination we made sure that all the marinas were empty when the dredgers came by. Our city council has been very supportive of the project, and in fact this is a 100% city funded project. So we're not getting any grants, we're not getting any funding from the state or the federal folks. So it's our city council that has allocated the funds for this project. So the city obviously very much supports the project. We're the drivers. We are managing the project on our own. Now, certainly the Rhine Channel is the most contaminated. It's considered a hot spot. It's got high levels of a bunch of different heavy metals and things of that nature. But in our lower bay, we also have some pockets of contaminants with some higher levels, primarily of mercury. So what I'm also working on right now is a project with the Army Corps of Engineers in dredging the lower bay. And in fact, that project is going out to bid next week or so. And what I'm focusing on is trying to maximize that project to get the contaminated material in the lower bay also to the Port of Long Beach. We are removing about 100,000 cubic yards of contaminated material. In some cases that's 2 feet to 6 or 7 feet of material. So the aquatic life, the benthic life down at the bottom of the floor, the Rhine Channel, is going to be much healthier. That'll work its way up in the food chain. Certainly it affects water quality. So the project is healthy for the marine environment as a whole.
All of these, the regulatory environment is completely different now. All these businesses adhere to much stricter standards, and we think that by enforcing those programs, looking for even new programs, maybe city runoff type studies to just prevent any type of contamination from making it back in the water, so that we don't have the same problem in 10 or 20 years.
You know, you could build a building, you could build some docks, and when you're done with your project, you can actually see those docks. You can see the building, you can see the park that you've built. With a dredging project, there's nothing really to see because it's all underwater. So what we know, our community and our city will feel better about themselves because we've made great efforts to clean up the bottom of the Rhine Channel. And so we know that we've done the right thing. And although no one can see it, when these dredging, when Dutra leaves here and the pile driving barges leave, it'll look exactly the same as it looked before we started. But we'll know that we've done the best thing that we can. And I think we should be proud of that.